This is episode 10 of the Boss Battle Show, part 1. We're going to celebrate the legacy of Mortal Kombat, starting with Mortal Kombat from 1992. Ah! Get over here! Alright guys, okay. I'm Adam Ronin, and I've got two of my best friends here sitting with me today. You have Gordy, who normally is behind the camera. Now you can see his beautiful fucking face. And then you remember Timmy from last episode. We're doing a 6-part series on the celebration of Mortal Kombat, and we're going to jump right into the bitch here. Mortal Kombat 1 came out in 1992. It was relatively unknown at probably for its first like 6 months. I want to talk about our first experiences with the original game. Timmy, if you want to go first, tell me about how you first discovered the original Mortal Kombat. How old were you? What were you doing?
Oh, holy cow. So
Did you have a boner?
It was 92, right?
Yeah.
So I would have been about 10 or so. And I remember we had this older family friend who was like the cool guy, who was like 21. And I remember he was talking about it because, you know, it's arcade release. And then we went down to the Longmont Mall. The Longmont Mall. Yeah. Those of you who don't know, Longmont's like a complete shithole. It doesn't even really exist anymore. Yeah, total terrible town now. It was nuked. Yeah, fuck you, Longmont. But no, we went into the arcade, which for some of you younger viewers was a place where people used to go to play video games. Yeah, it was kind of like meeting it online. Yeah, you don't know how you have it now. You sit in your comfy little chair with your thing, and you talk shit to everybody online. But some of us had to talk shit in person to people that were relatively larger than us. Yeah, and if you were sitting there and you were like, I'm gonna bang your mom, you get punched right in the face. And sometimes their moms were standing right behind you. Yeah, feed them quarters. Or they were like... bringing them pretzels and stuff. Or the moms were like, oh yeah, what's up? Yeah. Or sometimes you just did bang their mom. And that happens, yeah. But no, MK1 was actually, it kind of came in like a somewhat like dark time in my family's life. So like we were, full disclosure, we were kind of like in a rough patch, right? So we were all kind of like smashed into one bedroom basically. We were like, we'll call it between houses kind of a thing. And I remember, you know, we'd go to the arcade every once in a while when you could, and we'd, you know, sit and play it. But it was GamePro magazine, now defunct, right? Oh, rest in peace, GamePro. Yeah. Pour one out for my dead homies, but not really, because this is nice carpet. Yeah, it's full monster. We don't want to dump that, yeah. And I remember when it came out, like, you know, at first I didn't even have my Sega Genesis at home. It was, like, in storage, because we didn't have enough room for it. And I was finally able to, like, get the Sega home. And when GamePro came out, it had, like, the full layout, and it brought like all the fatalities, and it was the whole moves list. Right. And basically you could just sit there and read the backstory of everybody and fall in love with the characters before you ever played the game. So I had that thing like memorized, and I remember I was like Johnny Cage, man, that guy's the coolest. I was like, he's gonna be my jam. So I had everything memorized. The second I went in the arcade, I was just like firing them off. And it turns out I seriously sucked with Johnny Cage. Well, I couldn't do shit with him in the first one. So even though like I kind of fell in love with him, I ended up using other characters. It's funny though, because like if you suck with one character though, you kind of suck with them all, because the mechanics were exactly the same for every character minus their specials. Yeah, and his specials just I didn't get along with very well. Oh, because they were sluggish. Yeah, especially like, when he throws that fireball, it takes like 30 frames or whatever to fucking get out. I was like, I'd much rather just uppercut somebody than punch them in the junk very slowly. Oh yeah, like, and you couldn't even punch. You couldn't even cut punch chicks in that game. Yeah. Remember, you just did the splits like some kind of d-bag. Yeah. Punch him in the dick. What? Punch him in the dick. What? He was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. But no, it was really cool because it was like, you know, it was a really rough time for our family and stuff, and that was just kind of like my getaway. It was just like reading that magazine and, you know, just kind of just reading it 1,000 times over. I'm about 100% sure I still have it in storage somewhere. Dude. So I wish I would have you know, busted it out for this. But and that is the moral of the story of some great video games, is they are a perfect escape sometimes for when you're having, especially when you're a kid and you have a shitty time in your life, you don't have a lot of friends. Sometimes those digital characters are your friends. Absolutely, and it was started to kind of fall in line with my birthday, and that was really cool for me because it was kind of like the end of like a dark time. Like we moved into a new place, and then like I got the game, and then I was able to like finally just sit and enjoy it at home and start to. Right. So yeah. Mortal Monday. Remember that? What about you, Jordan? What's your experience? Your very first time seeing MK.
Okay, so
before I shoved it into your fucking ass every day of your life.
Yeah, exactly. Before the ass shoving. there was well, we were just coming off of the tail end of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
The movie? The Secret of the Ooze?
Yeah, The Secret of the Ooze. And, like, martial arts was, like, I was obsessed with it. My brother had exposed me to some old Japanese movies. So, Mortal Kombat came out, and my story isn't quite as cool as yours or as detailed, but I remember there's two very iconic things in this story besides Mortal Kombat. I was in the strip mall where Whole Foods is now.
In Fort Collins?
Yes, and there was an arcade in there.
There was?
Yes.
Because I remember there was the Montgomery Wards.
Yeah, Montgomery Wards.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
So there's right before Montgomery Wards, there's a little arcade, and I tried to go in with my crystal clear Pepsi.
Oh.
And they told me to leave it at the door. And I had my skateboard. I thought it was so cool. And I walked in.
He was cool. He was a cool kid.
You were like Bart Simpson sliding in here.
I walked in. I remember seeing a group of people, and I was like, "What's this?" So I walked over. Oh, fun fact! I had something in my back pocket. My favorite thing.
A dick?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies.
Oh no!
And it was the tail end. No, it was the tail. It was all smashed. I remember. Like,
They always were.
They always were, yeah.
They were smashed before they were smashed. Like when you pulled them out of the box, they were crushed.
Yeah, always,
Again,
for some reason.
okay, so again, for you youngsters out there, the Ninja Turtle pie was like a Hostess apple pie that was frosted and it was filled with custard and
Green custard,
and it was a dream. And bring them back, bring them back
Bring
now.
it back.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
they were so good.
They're shooting Ninja Turtles 2 right now, so maybe we should start a petition to
Come on,
fucking...
guys. Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Alright, so that was your time. Were you blown away?
Yeah, I just.
Did you walk up to it and you were like, what is this?
I walked up, kids were playing it, they were having so much fun, there were so many people around it. And it was just so lively, people were walking up and putting quarters on the machine. That's like back in the day, like when you walked up to a cabinet and you wanted to play, you'd get in the queue by putting your quarters on the machine.
You fucking put your quarter up and be like, I'm coming for you.
And I didn't have any money at the time. My parents were a little iffy about me playing arcade games, so like I would spend my time in the arcade watching, and then save my precious money to play a few rounds. And so I ended up playing Mortal Kombat when the crowds died out against the computer.
Your Ninja Turtle pie money.
Yes. Yeah.
This is why. And now the secret is revealed as why Jordan is not very good at Mortal Kombat, because he never got to play it. He just watched it. No, I'm just kidding.
What about you?
Yeah.
Well,
let us know, buddy.
It's not really that exciting. I think, and I was contemplating this last night because Mortal Kombat's been a staple my entire life, but I think I came into the Mortal Kombat 1 game a bit late. Because I remember it had already come out on home consoles. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, that looks cool or whatever, but I never played it, and maybe it hadn't come out on home consoles. But anyway, either way, I'd always see it in the arcades. And I'd always walk past it. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know why. But then one day, in the Foothills Fashion Mall, which is also a defunct pile of shit.
Which is coming back, though.
Oh, yeah, it's making its reboot. But, anyway, one day, my mom took me in there, we were walking around, and I saw somebody playing it, because every time I'd walk past it, nobody was playing it for some reason, because it hadn't hit its stride yet. And this dude was playing it, and I was watching him, and I saw him uppercut the dude, and blood came out. And I was like, what the fuck? Because violence in video games at that time was not a thing. And I was kind of like a weird kid. I loved horror movies and violent shit, so I always like wished that there was violence in games. But then I saw, I remember it clear as dick, that fucking spurt of red pop up, and I was like, oh my god. And then, dude,
it was like slow motion.
Yeah, he was playing as Sub-Zero, and he uppercutted right in, and he was on the pit. And I stopped. I was like, what? And then to fucking finish him, and he uppercutted him, and the motherfucker fell into the pit, onto the spikes, and my life was over with at that very moment. And then I walked up, I was like, dude, what do you tell me about this? And he was like, and he was really, really cool. He's like, oh, you never played? And he went up to the next guy and fought the match, and he's like, watch this.
Yeah.
Motherfucker ripped the guy's head off with the spine, this exact thing, and I said, I need to be the best person in the world at this game. And I never really was, because it was hard to be good at that game. But then, it was either just then, but then, Mortal Monday, September 13th, that's right, 93, everybody got it on the home consoles. I remember playing it on Genesis, and I didn't know because the violence in the video game was like a huge to-do back then. Like everybody had their fucking problem with it. Media was like, kids are gonna kill people and shit like that, and some probably did.
A fantasy martial arts game, as some parents think is just too violent for their kid.
And to speak to that though, like most medias tend to kind of like gradually kind of push the envelope until it's like, oh, you've gone too far, and then they back up, and then they do it again. Mortal Kombat did not do that.
Yeah.
It was like, you went from like happy little video games, like you're a little plumber jumping around and everything's great, to like rip the heart out, hold it up in the air, and like, yeah! Jump all the steps.
Oh yeah, and but the home consoles came out and there was no blood. The Super Nintendo version had replaced it with gray sweat, which you could turn red if you had a Game Genie. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Did not have an
I didn't.
SNES. I was a Genesis guy.
Oh yeah, well I had.
But I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
I had both, and I remember the struggle was the Genesis or the Super Nintendo had better gameplay. Like it was more arcade perfect in terms of like sound quality and graphics. And then, like, it was probably like 3 weeks after the game play out, and I was playing bloodless fucking versions, and someone was like, oh, or I might have read it in the magazine, or someone told me at school, the fucking blood code in Genesis, ABACABB.
Right.
And I couldn't pull it off for some reason. My dad had to put it in for me, and it happened. And I remember putting it in, and the blood was there, and I was really excited. So I totally ixnayed the SNES version and played strictly the Genesis, even though it had graphic inferiorities. And but it had the blood, and that's all I needed. Who's your go-to guy?
Sub-Zero. Yeah.
Oh, really?
What?
In the first Mortal Kombat, like, I was undecided on who my favorite character was. I was always playing either, like, Raiden, Liu Kang, or Sub-Zero.
I mean, you only had 7 to pick from, so basically you played the whole roster.
Yeah, basically.
Sub-Zero actually was my favorite because of his fatality, but Scorpion has always had my heart.
It was a tough game. It was, like, very sluggish.
Oh, Sluggish Ruggish Bone.
It's the Sluggish Ruggish Bone.
For sure.
Yeah.
It was ridiculously slow.
All 8 frames per second. It felt like.
I mean, you know,
it was like
when you play,
but it lit a fire.
but you're right, it was very
It lit a
balanced.
fire, and it started. It reached highs, then it fell to lows, and now Mortal Kombat's back up to highs, which we're going to cover in future videos. So I think that's probably good for Mortal Kombat 1. Stay tuned for part 2, in which we cover the second game in the series.